What is going on? Welcome back to another video. So we are back working on the 4Runner. There's a few things I want to get done today. So I still haven't figured out completely what the four-wheel drive issue is. It's still going into four-wheel drive, but not coming out. And so we got to dig into that. And also, if you saw the last video, you know this door actuator, the door lock actuator, is very weak. So instead of replacing that entire actuator, we're just going to be replacing the motor itself. So this little guy right here is the door lock motor. So hopefully this is the right one. This is a 02 4Runner, and the only lock door motors I could find were for up to 2000, I believe. So I'm going to give it a shot. We're going to see if it is the same. So obviously we got to pull the door panel off, get that whole actuator assembly out of the door, and then we'll take it apart, pull the motor out, and make sure it's the same one. All right, we're getting somewhere. So we had to pull that rail off right there for the window, the little guide for the window. And now, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see back in there, but there's a couple rods that run up to the door latch up here, the outside door handle. So we gotta pull the rods off of the handle itself and then pull those 3 Torx bolts right there. And I believe this rod is connected as well, but we should be able to just leave it right here, pull the whole assembly out, and do it that way. So let's get this thing out and see if we can fix it. All right, we got the whole assembly out of the door. So now this is basically the motor right here. So we have to take this off of the main assembly. So there's just a couple screws there, actually 3, there's one on the back as well. So pull that off. We'll get this motor separated from the whole assembly, and then we'll have to crack this thing open and get access into the inside of it to be able to swap that motor in. Alright, so what we got to do to open this thing up is, with a razor blade, there's this groove right here where the 2 cases split in half, and it's glued from the factory. So what we got to do is cut into that groove to separate the half. So we'll cut it and should be able to crack this thing open. Well, that wasn't so bad. We got this thing apart. So here's the motor. So far it looks like the same motor, so like you just pull it off like that, and then we have to swap this gear. I know some motors don't have this little collar here. Looks like they both do, so this motor should be the correct one. So I'll throw the gear on, we'll get it back in the case, and then we're gonna have to glue these 2 cases back together. Alright, so I'm just going to use super glue on these case halves just because it dries nearly instantly. Once the super glue dries, make sure that, you know, the case halves are secured together. And actually, when I put it together and took it back out, the motor stayed on this side. So I don't know if you're supposed to assemble it on this side, being the two gears are both on this one side case half. But either way, we'll get it back in, glued together, and put it back in the truck. Alright guys, we're all back together, looking good, and it's working like it should. So if you want to check out that motor, I'll have it linked. I picked it up on eBay. It was 10 bucks, so cannot beat the price. And it took me about a half hour, I think, to change that motor out. So very easy to do. Save you, what are they, actuators like 200 bucks from Toyota, maybe even more for the whole actuator. Just replace the motor, 10 bucks, and you're done. So I think what I'm gonna do next is start trying to figure out what is going on with this four-wheel drive. So we'll jack this thing up, tear into it a little bit more. I wanna test the motors manually with a battery, actually, hooking power direct to the motors or the actuators on the transfer case and the front diff, making sure both of those are functioning correctly. And something I just noticed when I was outside before I brought it in the shop, I hit the four-wheel drive, and underneath like the driver's side kick panel, kind of, it sounded like a relay just clicking, 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 and then it didn't actually go into four-wheel drive this time, whereas before it would completely go into four, no lights flashing or anything. And then when I just tried it, like I said, something was clicking. So I don't know if there's a relay under there. I know there's a four-wheel drive ECU that controls the whole system. I don't actually know where that is on the car, but I'm gonna pull that kick panel out and see what's under there. Maybe it's something to do with a fuse or a relay. All right guys, I pulled this kick panel off, and it actually is the four-wheel drive ECU right here that is clicking and making noise. So I have kind of come to the conclusion that is possibly the issue. Sometimes I can get it into four-wheel drive, no problem. Sometimes I'll hit four-wheel drive and I'll get a bunch of clicking from there, and then everything will stop working. Nothing will try to engage. Sometimes when I do get it into four-wheel drive, when I try to take it out of four-wheel drive, the ECU starts clicking again, and then everything stops functioning. Nothing will try to engage. So I had a lot of comments saying that it could be the front actuator. I know the front actuator is working like it should. When I put the thing in four-wheel drive and it actually locks in, the transfer case and the front diff lock in. But then when I take it out of four, when I try to take it out of four, obviously nothing unlocks. I can pull the transfer case actuator off manually, put it back into two-wheel drive, put it back on the transfer case, and then as soon as I turn the key on, the front actuator disengages. So I know the front actuator is engaging and disengaging. I'm testing the transfer case actuator now, and I'm getting full functions out of that. I'm gonna show you guys how to test this real quick. So this is what I found. I took a little screenshot of a video on YouTube. I found some guy figured out how to test this stuff with just a battery. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in the four locked position, and then we're going to use this diagram here. So this is a pinout right here of the connector. So we're going to use that pinout with pin 2 and 6 just looped together, positive to pin 1, negative to pin 4, and then to get it from high 4 to high 4 locked, you do 4 and 2 together, negative to 1, positive to 5. And then if you wanted to go from, let's see, high 4 locked back into two-wheel drive, you'll just swap positive and negative. So I'm going to show you guys how it functions, and it's doing everything it should do. So I know the actuator is fine. So you can see that went from high 4 into high 4 locked. Now to go from high 4 locked back into high 4, we're gonna do pin 2 and 6 looped, positive to 1, negative to 4. So now it's in high 4, I'm gonna rotate it back into high 4 locked, and then we'll rotate it into two-wheel drive. So you can see we're back in two-wheel drive. So everything with this actuator is working, and like I said, I know the front is working. So I think this ECU is bad, and the main reason I think is because it starts clicking, and then the entire system, nothing works, nothing tries to move. It's just blank and dead. So these ECUs aren't very expensive. They're like 50 bucks on eBay, so for a used OEM. So I think I'm gonna go that route. We'll get a new four-wheel drive ECU in it and try that and see if that changes anything. All right, we picked up a new four-wheel drive computer. So let's go swap this into the 4Runner and see if anything changes. All right, we got the ECU in. We're just cruising in the driveway real quick. Just hit four-wheel drive. Still won't go into 4. Oh, there it goes. So now we're locked in 4. The real test is trying to get it out of 4, so let's see if it'll come out. No, same thing, still won't come out of four-wheel drive. Well guys, the new four-wheel drive computer didn't change anything at all. It's still making that same noise, so I don't know if that's just how that computer functions, but either way, we still got to do some digging. So I'm gonna go test all the switches one more time, make sure all the switches are working like they should, and then I'm gonna keep digging, I guess, until I find something. But I'm not gonna bore you guys showing you everything that I'm testing since I've already done it. I'm gonna go through everything, double check everything one more time, and I'll for sure let you know if I find something. All right guys, I finally found the issue. It is finally working. Let me show you. So, car's on, 4-wheel drive button. We'll lock it in. Hit it again. Unlocked. It has never ever done that. So I hope you guys can follow me. There is the main actuator here, and then there's 2 position switches above the actuator. When I was messing around with it, like I said, I can get it into 4-wheel drive. Now it's consistently going into 4-wheel drive. Coming out of 4-wheel drive, it would consistently stop in 4 locked. So you have, there's 3 positions of this. So there's 2-wheel drive, there's 4-wheel drive locked, and then there's 4-wheel drive high. So to get into 4-wheel drive high from 2-wheel drive, it basically makes a full turn, and then going back, it has to make that full turn again the other way. So what was happening is I'd go all the way around into 4 high, and then coming out of 4 high, it would get stuck in 4 locked. And everything was shut down. Nothing would function until I started messing with these switches. So the number 1 switch, the forward switch up here, when it was stuck in 4-wheel locked, I could jump these 2 connections, put a wire in between those 2 connectors. All of a sudden it would rotate all the way back into 2-wheel drive just fine, no problems. So I took the actuator off, everything off, the switches off, everything, and kind of was messing around with it to see what was going on. So what I ended up doing is I pulled the washer off of the switch. So essentially the switch sits deeper into the case and is activated sooner. So there was just a little bit of a dead spot with this switch not activating, and that's exactly where the transfer case actuator would stop moving. As soon as I activated the switch, it would automatically turn all the way back into 2-wheel drive. So for some reason, this main forward switch isn't sitting deep enough with the washer on it, and now that I took the washer off, it works just fine. So the only issue is this is a sealing washer. So I think I'm going to try to squish it down, or maybe find a thinner washer that I can use. So hopefully you guys can follow that. I know it's kind of hard to explain without actually showing you, and I can't really show you because you're not going to be able to see in these holes where these switches sit. So either way, it's functioning now. So very happy about that. I'm going to figure out something with that washer just to make sure we're not leaking oil out of here, and then I gotta pull the cover off and figure out a seal. I don't know if there's an O-ring on here from the factory, but there is no O-ring right now. And when I pulled this cover off earlier, it was full of water. So I wanna make sure that's all sealed up. All right guys, I got that washer. I just kind of squished it down, sanded it down a little bit. Got about half the thickness, got it back together, and hit 4-wheel drive, locked right in. We'll hit center diff. Center diff locks in. Unlocks no problem, and then we'll take it back into 2-wheel drive. And this is where I was having issues before. So you can see there, fully disconnects back into 2-wheel drive. So what a simple fix. Very hard to find, but a simple fix. So this probably could be solved with a brand new OEM switch in the transfer case. Like I said, I have this one here, which came in the 4Runner. And then also in the glove box, when I bought the 4Runner, it had new switches in there, but I don't know if they're just a cheapo brand. I don't even know if this one here is OEM. But either way, it's working, so I'm very happy about that. So just a lot of diagnosing. I know for sure that actuator on the transfer case was not working like it should. When I first took it apart, it was full of water and gunk. So at least we got that fixed. And now with that washer on that sensor, got that ground down, we are back in business. So I did a lot of research on that actuator. Toyota actually doesn't sell any parts for the inside of that actuator. So no O-rings, no nothing. So they actually sell the actuator and the rod as one unit. What they want you to do is take your transfer case apart and swap the whole rod out too, because they don't want you to mess up the timing of that actuator. So it is what it is. I can't get O-rings for it. I probably could find some that fit, but I just took it apart, took the cover off, and just put a bead of RTV around it and put it back on. That should seal it up just fine. So if you guys are having issues with your 4-wheel drive on an 01, 02, I know the older ones have issues with the sensor on the front actuator, This one actually doesn't have a sensor. It's only the actuator. There's no sensors at all. Basically, the sensor that is on the front actuator of the older style ADD, the vacuum ADD, is basically the same function as the switch that I'm messing with now. So if you guys are having issues with this style, check that sensor. And I guess a good way to test it would be when the system stops working, if it will engage at all. And then, like I said, when mine was coming back, it would stop engaging or stop disengaging. Just jump those two wires together and see if that changes anything, because like I said, there's that weird dead spot in there causing all my issues. So I'm glad we got it figured out. We can finally get this thing on the road and start doing more stuff to it. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really hope it helps you out. This was more of an informational video, fixing the door lock actuator and trying to troubleshoot this 4-wheel drive. So go drop a comment, smash that thumbs up button. We'll see you guys in the next video.